Let's go over some more advanced techniques with text in Photoshop that you'll need to do creative work like create interesting logos or more creative like magazine or poster layouts. So let me pull up a few examples of some creative stuff that I have seen fairly recently. Ooh, come on over. So this is creative work here. The word microbes, but it's done with a little, something. It looks like maybe not an underlay, but an overlay of little shapes. Here's something I like that toys with the size of each individual letter. These L's are a little bit thinner. This or kind of crowds in there. There's a 3 that's set off at an awkward angle to make the word awkward. Team is sideways over here, and etc. So lots of creative sizing and spacing on this one. There's one more I'd like to show you. These are all, by the way, award-winning magazine layouts. So I believe he is a composer, but I don't exactly remember what he is off the top of my head. But you can see, or you know what, maybe he was a thinker, like a scientist of some type. But you have a lot of the fonts tracing along in these interesting shapes in his hair and then flowing out from behind him as he walks in these wavy shapes. So this is the type of thing we're going to be working on in this video. So I'd like you to open a file. Just like before, same size is probably fine. You could say 1,000 by 1,000 or, give or take. I'd say create new. You know what, just to, I'm going to say 2,000 by 2,000. You don't have to go with this size, but you'll be safe if you do. All right. Now let's experiment with a few other of these, a few more advanced techniques over here with the text tool. So you should know how to use horizontal type by now. So let's try vertical type real quick and see what it does. Right? Simple enough. Very straightforward. It delivers on its promise. It just creates vertical type, right? Let me click out of it so you can at least get a good look at it. So okay, so that's that. Now, by the way, you can rotate your text. You won't be able to do it with this because I just clicked once. So, for example, if you just click once, it's going to be centered around a dot. You can't really rotate a dot. But if you were to do something like, and this works with horizontal or vertical. Oh, well, the line height is all screwed up in this one. So I'm going to pull open a few options and make it a little less awful. So let's see here, line height, there it is. Make it quite a bit bigger. You know what, let's bring down the font size too. Okay, that's cool. So this time I dragged my box out. I didn't just click and let it draw lorem ipsum on its own. Instead, I dragged a big box. And when you drag the box, you can start adjusting it just by like you would normally, just like if you were using the shape tool, for example. You can also grab these anchor points and stretch it out, and the box will get bigger, allowing it to populate with more text, shrink it down, etc. So that's an easy way to move it around. Another way will be to go over to Edit and say Free Transform or Transform, and they work the same way that they would with anything else. All right. Now let's do something a little bit more advanced. Let's create a shape. So go ahead and let's see, where's my shape tool? Oh, it's right there. I'm going to go ahead with a circle. Don't grab a square. Grab some kind of circle and bring it out. And you should have a path, right? Just a path. Now, take your text tool. I'm just going to set it to the horizontal text tool. And then you'll notice that whenever you go up to the path, it gives you a little wavy line. If you click there, it creates text along the path there. Can I please deselect? There we go. So that looks pretty cool, right? Try your pen. So go ahead and select your pen tool. There we go. And create a cool, shaped line. hit enter to end it. Well, sometimes when you do your pen tool, you hit enter, or yeah, enter, and it disappears. It's over in your paths. So you can just click it and make it come back. And then you can do the same thing. Take your text tool and just put it right there. Oh, I guess I missed it. Let me try that again. Okay. Okay, I caught it that time. Good. And you get this really cool sort of path for your text, just like the one that I showed you just a few minutes ago. Now let's say if you had a shape and you wanted to fill it with text. Let's try that, because that can make it look really cool sometimes. So I'm going to bring my font size down for this one by selecting my text tool and bring it to like 16, 14, 12, something like that. And just click inside that shape, and it's going to fill the shape with text. My line height is way too high. So there we go. I want to add more text personally, so fill the whole thing with text. There we go. I'm going to deselect. I'm going to hit escape. And there you go. So a lot of cool effects with our text, right? So good. This is good for magazine, poster layout, stuff like that. Let's go to somewhere else on your page and go ahead and just lay out some straightforward. I'm just going to drag a box and it's going to fill with, whoa, lorem ipsum that's way too small. Let's make it huge, actually. Even bigger. 200. That line height, again, is psycho, so let's make it a lot higher by going over here to our Properties menu. Okay, so we have some lorem ipsum there. And now we're going to do a logo design for lorem ipsum, the makeup line or something. Whatever you want to think it is. You know what? I'm going to make that a capital I. And you know what? My machine has defaulted to grayscale again. Your machine probably does not do this. So I'm going to go, I gotta hit the escape key to not select the text. There it is, checked on grayscale again. So I'm going to check on RGB. Don't flatten. Thank you. I really gotta adjust that. But anyway. Okay. Now if you, let's see. I feel like I forgot to mention something. Let me go back to layers. Okay, that's okay. I remember what it is. Okay, so let's select our text. Or actually, another way to do this. Oh, by the way, a quick lesson about the way text works is you know that Photoshop works with bitmapped images. But whenever whenever Photoshop draws you out a lot of shapes, usually it's a vector image. So you may be acquainted. I believe we've spoken about the difference between vector and bitmap before. But if you ever try to do modifications that require it to be a bitmapped image, so for example, if you try to smudge the text right now, let's try to smudge it real quick. Yeah, look, it gives you an error. This type layer must be rasterized, which means turned into a bitmapped image before proceeding. Its text will no longer be editable. Rasterize the type. So now if we rasterize this, we won't be able to change the type. It's just going to turn it from like what it thinks of as letters, and it's just going to be a bunch of pixels on a screen. So you'll be able to smudge it, and you'll be able to work with it like an artist, but you won't be able to retype it or adjust its kerning or its all that stuff. Make its line height, etc. So I'm going to say cancel. Whenever you're ready to turn it into a bitmapped image, so you can do artistic stuff on it, you can always just say right-click the layer and say rasterize type, and that'll turn it into a bitmapped image. And then you can edit it like a normal Photoshop image. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to start editing the details of this specific chunk of type. So let's right click it. Here it is. And down about halfway, we're going to see create to work path. And now look at this. we have all these points, right? I'm going to select the type tool. And actually, let me select the pointer tool. I'm going to zoom in real tight over this eye. Undo that. Oh, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and make the type invisible. And I'm going to hold Control, and I'm going to select one of these little points. And you'll see that you'll be able to modify them. Oops, forgot to hold Control. There we go. So oopsie, forgot to hold Control again. Stop that. There we go. So I'm gonna make a little adjustment to this logo to make it look a little more unique, a little fancier. There we go. So now the logo looks a little bit more interesting, right? I mean, you know, it's not going to knock anybody's socks off, but that's something that you wouldn't be able to do with the font out of the box. All right, now let's go ahead and make it so it's more than just a path. So it'll actually be letters. So the first thing we'll need is a layer. So let's put a layer up here at the top. So here we go, new layer. Oops, stroke and fill paths. There we go. Now we're going to go to the paths menu and hold Alt and click the path or the let me hit escape to show you what that does. I'll just change tool maybe. Well, that's interesting. It's not letting me get away from this path. Okay, there we go. Just had to pick the selection tool, selector. But anyway, so actually I want to undo what I just did and just hold Alt and click the work path again. And then stroke the path. Okay, so it's missing. So we need to go over to layers. We got to select the layer we want it to spit the ink out on. So sort of stroke the path onto. So we can right click on this and we can either say stroke path or fill path. If we say stroke path, it's going to ask us what tool we want to use. Let's just use the brush and then we'll select off of it and there you go. Pretty nice, right? It looks a little bluish because we're still looking at the path. Let me try to deselect. There we go. Okay, so I deselected it by hitting the escape button. So now it's more like a black tone. Looks all right, right? Okay. So let's undo that a couple times because we could also right click over here on the work path and say fill path. And then it asks you, various parameters. I'm going to say 100% opacity and feathering radius 0 because I want it to be nice and sharp. And let's just hit OK. It'll fill it up with whatever color we had last selected in our palette. Let me try to get rid of that blue outline. And there we go. I hit the escape button to get rid of that. And it looks pretty nice, right? So there we go. Now here's the next challenge that we're going to work on is we're going to try making type, using type to make a mask. So let's go onto the internet and try to find a cool background image. I'm going to try to find an explosion, but you could find whatever you want. Explosion. Images. I found this one. I'm going to say copy image, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and open up another file. I want you to do the same. So hopefully you found a good image by now. Go to File, New, let's say Clipboard. And then we're going to hold Control or Command and V to paste. Cool. Now let's create a little box right over the explodey stuff, or whatever you chose. You didn't have to choose an explosion. And it spit out a little bit of lorem ipsum. Oh, you know what? I'm going to hit undo, so please hit undo also. Or I have to press the escape button and then hit undo because we want to use horizontal type mask tool. and do the same thing. Just drag a big box over it. There we go. Great. Good. So, okay, so it's tough to tell, but it has all the same text over it. I'm just going to select on another tool, just this move tool, and you're going to see that it has a little selection there, right? So now all we have to do is a little trick. Is go over here to our path, or actually, I believe our layers menu might do the job, but yeah, there we go. So we went over to our layers menu and we clicked the quick mask tool. That's what this is over here. And what it does is it takes a marquee and it sort of makes a mask. So masking is, we may have discussed this a little bit, but it's sort of like laying masking tape down. That's what it's named after, just like masking tape. It just kind of blocks out certain parts of something so that you can just draw in one area. You know that we've done that with marquees pretty extensively. So this does the same thing. Now let's do something a little bit more interesting. So say this is let's say this is going to be our logo. Well, here are a few more layer options. So we can double click on the layer, right? So I just double clicked right about here, and it pops up another big window of lots of interesting options. For example, you can bevel or emboss things. And it shows you a little example. Let's hit OK and see what happens. So I don't know if it doesn't look good with an explosion, but you can tell that these characters are a little bit beveled, right? What the heck, let's leave it like that. What else can we do? Let's see, we have lots of cool stuff. Experiment with inner glow, inner shadow. This stuff is all cool. Sometimes it doesn't look very good. I have a feeling because this text is so colorful, it may not look awesome. So I'm going to skip, and we can't go over all these, but I'm going to go ahead and click drop shadow because I find that to be quite a useful one. And drop shadow has a lot of options as long as you click the little row. You can choose how, and you can see over in the corner of my screen, left corner, lower left, the effect that all these adjustments are having on the actual product, the finished product. So I'm going to give it a pretty opaque shadow, about 80%. I'm going to change the angle. Okay, there we go. That looks good. And then you can decide how far you want the shadow to be from your actual image. I'm going to go right. I don't know. That's and then how much you want it spread out. So here it's like very, very thin, but you could actually make it really poofy. I'm going to go with thin. You can change the size, like how feathered out it is. So here it's really definite and dense. Here it's kind of feathered out. I probably like it like that. There we go. You can kind of experiment. Noise makes it look grainy, so on and so forth. So that's good to me. So there you go. All right, now let's do a kind of a creative magazine layout. This is what I want you to do. Is open new, and we're going to use all these skills to make a cool little sort of magazine spread. You know what? Let's make it a magazine size too. Let's go with inches. Let's make it 11 inches high by 17 wide. Well, even though it's if we were doing a magazine, we would do CMYK, but I mean, we're not really going to publish this, so let's just leave it at RGB. Okay, create. Oh, you know what? That's not what I wanted, because that's really, really vertical, so that's not a good magazine spread. Let's reverse those numbers. Should be 8.5 tall. Oh wait, I mean, let's see, 11 tall by 17 wide. Okay, that looks more like a magazine spread. Okay, now let's go on the internet and find a picture of someone shouting. So please open a tab. Go find someone shouting. Yeah, this is good stuff. Okay. I'm going to open this. I'm going to right click on this image and say, I'm going to open the image in a new tab just to see how big it is. Okay, well, it has all that icky, has all this like stamp stuff, but this is for educate. Oh, well, you know what? This might be better. Cool. I like this. Wait, it still has that watermarky stuff all over it. How about this one? Okay, I like this. This looks promising. Let's go with this. You don't have to do this one, but I'm gonna copy. There we go. Copy image. I'm gonna go to Photoshop. I'm going to go ahead and paste it. So it created a new layer. It has our guy pasting, our guy shouting. Okay. I'm going to edit, free transform. I'm going to shrink it down. I'm going to hold shift to maintain. Oh, whoops. I meant to say control. Oh, no, that's too late now. I hit undo. Maybe it was alt. There we go. Alt to maintain their perspective, the proper perspective. I liked it before. Okay, that's good. I noticed that this is, this is black, but then this is white. So what, I'm just going to take my paintbrush. Okay. Photo is what I'm going to name that layer. Now I'm going to add a layer right underneath, and I'm going to dump in black. Now you don't have to do that. I'm just doing that to make mine look good, and you will want to make yours look good too, but you haven't seen what we're going to do yet. So now above your image, let's create another layer. And I'm going to make this one invisible for now because I'm about to pen out a couple wavy lines. Sort of the course some drops of saliva might take, right? Oopsie. Okay. And by the way, even though they're disappearing, these are creating new paths every time we do this. And you can see them by going to your paths menu. Oh, oops. No, I guess it just erased the first several. We must have thought we were making a mistake. But anyway, right now we're clicking on working path, and now we're adding to it. You can always see the path by double-clicking on the working path item in your paths menu. All right, looks good. Now we're going to go to our text. We're going to go to each path, and we're going to put some type onto it. Oh, goodness, that's too big. I'm going to say 14. Let's zoom in and say... Oops, it's typing on the wrong side of it. Okay, let's just get rid of that by undoing a couple times. Oh, okay, we can just hit delete and escape. Try that once more. Oh, you know what? Because we started from right to left in making our paths. Okay, so let's get rid of those paths. And let's go left to right, or else the text is going to follow that. We don't need that either. Go on, get out of here. Hit the escape button, usually does the trick. My goodness, this thing is being stubborn. I think because I have some type on it, I'm going to get rid of that type. There we go. Got rid of all the type on it, on the layers. Okay, and then it got rid of the path. That's good. Okay, let's make those pen strokes go the other way. There we go. Hit enter. Let's go over to paths and click the work path so we can keep adding to it. There we go. All right, there we go. Ah, they're all gone again. Photoshop, what are you doing to me over here? All right, that's good. Now, text. text to path. And cool, except the font's way too big. Bring it down to something small. That's good. Let's see. Sometimes Photoshop does things I don't expect. I don't ... expect it to do, and it makes me want to shout and make all sorts of gross spit droplets fly out of my mouth, which is not good because COVID. However you spell that. There we go. So you don't have to write that silly little story exactly, of course. But I'd like to see these wavy lines with words along them. And then last but not least, we're going to bring in our little creation over here. Now the first thing we're going to have to do is rasterize all of this. So let's right click that and say, let's see, rasterize. There we go. Now we can just select the whole thing. There we go. Select it, copy, go over here, paste, and then we'll have to resize it, which is fine. So, and then to resize it, you can use your edit menu and go down to free transform. I'm going to hold my, I think, Alt key to resize it and bring it over here. And there we go. So it's kind of a slight, I mean, of course it's not publication quality, but it's a pretty cool little magazine layout, right? Oh, you know what? I forgot. I have a black background that's going to look absolutely terrible with black text. I'm not sure if we talked about this, but this is how you change the text color. So you double click on the front color there and you can just change it. I'm going to change it to pink. You know what? I'm going to copy that hex code. Okay. Now I'm going to, okay, hit escape. Double click that. Okay, paste the hex code. Cool. It was already there actually. Sometimes I notice that you select text and you go to its color and it's showing as pink, and then you just tell it again, oh, you know, I do want it to be pink actually, Mr. Photoshop, and then it does it. Don't ask me why it works that way. All right, so I changed the color. I want you to make it look good. You don't have to use pink on black, of course. You use whatever you see fit, but that's my magazine layout, and I want you to have a similar one. So, pardon me, that's your assignment for this week, is send me a JPEG with a logo that you've made those adjustments to, using a masking technique on it, some text that followed some path, some unique path, a shape or a path, and then, you know, incorporate it with some kind of image. You know, try to be creative. Do you remember the one with the flowing stuff through the guy's head, and they did it on his head because he was a smart guy? You know, try to make it make sense. You know, I made the lines sort of like line up with a spit coming out of this guy's mouth, so there was a purpose behind it. Sort of a common theme. The explosions all had sort of like an explosive vibe to it. So, you know, incorporate your interests, you know, just like, but this is just a weekly exercise. So this isn't a main project, but please have it to me. Well, you know, same time, same place, or same time, same place every week. So, all right. Well, I will look forward to seeing what you created.